Let me know when. Yep, we're good. Good evening, everybody. It's 7 o'clock, so we'll start. And if there's more people coming, then they can join us. When they come. Thank you very much for coming. Just show of hands. How many people are from the county tonight here? We have. Okay, no one from the county, and everybody else is from the. Oh, so sorry, Julie, I didn't see you. Sorry. And then we have everybody else from the town. Okay, well, thank you very much. So tonight, basically, the purpose of this town hall is to basically get your feedback on how we did last year and get your opinion on what should be policing priorities for our upcoming, what we call financial year, which is 22-23. And I'll start with a little bit of stats, and then we can go into what you guys would like to see, your comments, questions, and then we'll go how it goes. Really informal. If you have any questions on any police subject, please feel free to ask. We have COP here tonight. If you have any questions for them, well, they can probably answer. We have also Jim from the CPOs in town here that could certainly answer some questions as well. Before I continue, we'd like to thank the Friendship Center for the room tonight. I'm really happy that we can use this, and thank you to the town of Edson for having Steve here doing this live as well on Facebook, and being able to take the questions from the public that are watching from home. So unless there's any questions, I will start quickly with the stats. So these are the same numbers that I presented at the during my presentation for the town of Edson, as well as for the council in the county. Basically, these are the statistics for 2021 from January to December. And so if I can start with the town of Edson, I'll just go quickly, like a quick overview of it. If you have any specific questions, please ask me. But so overall, what we saw for 2021 in the town of Edson, we saw a decrease of person crimes by 18%. Now, if we look at property crime, we saw a decrease of 14%. The big number on that one was the break and enters. We were able to reduce that by 51%, which is really good. And then the other criminal codes were 32%. Now, if we look at on the provincial side, we're looking at a reduction of person crimes, 33%. Property crime, a total of 51%. Same thing for them. One of their big number was the break and enters. They were down by 64% in the county, so that's pretty good. And then if we look at more recent statistics, so this is from January to February 2022. So just some of the numbers. So for person crimes, we saw a decrease for those 2 months of 24% compared to last year. Property crime, though, we saw an increase of 2%. We did see a little rise in break and enters for the first 2 months, a rise on theft of motor vehicles, theft over, theft under. So obviously the property crimes for the first 2 months were a little high. And and then other criminal code, we're looking at about 21% increase. So the reason for this is because we only have 2 months, so it's really hard to have a good comparison. And during that month, we have court appearance, and we have a lot of people that fail to appear, and those numbers are a little higher now that the courts are open versus when they were shut down during COVID. So, for example, like our fail to comply and appear to court for the first 2 months, it's 875% higher, which is just unrealistic in terms of a viable comparison with last year. Courts were shut down, so now that they're reopening, now we see those numbers going up, and then so the numbers technically are, we had 4 last year, now we have 39, so that's why the numbers are so high. That's why we have an increase of other criminal code of 21%. That's on the municipal side, and if we look on the provincial side for January and February, just hang on here, I'll grab my piece of paper here. Okay, so we have the same numbers here. So we look at, oh, sorry about this. Okay, let me backtrack. For the full year for the county, we had a reduction of person crimes by 5%, property crime by 1%, and other criminal code by 0%. So sorry, the statistic that I was telling you, the 33% lower, the 52% lower, were for January and February. Sorry about that. So a little decrease in the county on that side. Any questions on the statistics? Before I continue, I promised Julie to say a couple of words about COP, and I totally forgot. I started right away. She just wanted to say hi, talk about the COP program quickly, and so I will give her the 2 minutes right away, so my apologies. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Julie Vanderhoek. I'm the president of the local Citizens on Patrol. We have about 15 to 18 members, depending on the statistics that you're looking at. There's about 60 patrols in Alberta. It was started in Alberta, in Strathcona County. What we're watching for are distracted drivers, drunk drivers. We are watching for vehicles in the hotels and motel parking lots that are, have people walking around checking doors and whatever. We do parameter surveillance, I guess, of disturbances. If the police have been called in for something, we like to sort of stay in the area in case there's some people running off or whatever. What we have called in and caught, we have found missing persons, stolen vehicles, fires, several fires. There seems to be a lot of that going on. A lot of impaired drivers we've called in, injured persons and fights, location of domestic violence victims. Often they will escape the area and we don't know where they are while the police are dealing with the assailant. We are keeping an area in surveillance, I guess, to see if we can find where the victim is, because often they don't know what's going on. They don't want to go back. We also look after some areas where there have been accidents or road hazards. We do a lot of, not a lot, but we do some of the traffic control there. If you see something that doesn't seem right, keep an eye on it. Write down as much as you know, as much as you can observe, like put it into your notes, and don't put it on Facebook unless you think that it's something necessary, I guess. If you see something though, call the police and just let them know, because if they don't know there's something going on, even if there's something they can't do anything about or it's not super serious, they have at least some sort of an idea. And I have application forms for anybody interested in joining. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. My apologies. I went right into the thick of it. So yes, so these are the statistics. Other things that I brought with me. So working with COP, we get from time to time, we get complaints about speeders, an area in town where we're wondering, like what's going on? Is there a problem with speeding? So what we've done with COP is we basically gave them access to a radar gun and asked them to go to a certain location and record the speeds of vehicles traveling in that area, so to give us a better reading of what's going on. A few advantages, they're going at times that, sometimes the police don't have, and they can stay there for a little longer because they don't have to answer calls, and they are also in their own personal vehicles, so there's no marked police car affecting the actual result. Nobody's all of a sudden slowing down because they saw a police car. So we have the real statistics. And so far, those numbers are really interesting. Some areas that we thought we had like very serious, very big problem about speedings are actually not as bad as we thought. So for example, on January 7th, on 40th Street at 18th Avenue facing southbound, the speed over there is 50 kilometers. They were there for about, what, an hour? They caught 36 vehicles going northbound. The average speed was 53. And then they caught 23 vehicles going southbound. The average speed was 52. So not bad. Same thing, January 7th for about another 40 minutes. They were on 49th Street at 7th Avenue. and again, it's 50 kilometers. Northbound, 11 vehicle, the average speed 47. Southbound, the average speed 44. On February 12th, they were on Highway 16, westbound. They were by the Honda dealership. The speed limit there is 50. They were an average of westbound, 30 vehicles. The average speed was 50.5 kilometers per hour, and the highest speed was 65, and that was at 11:35 in the afternoon. And then same thing, same day, Highway 16, now at Jerry Ford's. And they were just there a little bit later. So that was in the morning at 11, later at 2 in the afternoon. 19 vehicles, the average speed was 54, and then they caught one at 73. 73 was starting to be a little fast here in town, absolutely. February 7th, the location, 63rd Street at the bridge there by the airport. And I don't know if you remember, Jim, that was one of the location that the radar system, like the radar display that has there, that caught like crazy speed there. Of course, we're talking here February, so it's not the summer month, but we're looking at southbound, the average speed was 53 kilometers per hour. The highest speed was 66. Numbers of vehicle, 28. Going northbound, 53 kilometers, fastest speed 63, and 26 vehicles. So it gives us a bit of a reading, a bit of an idea. And actually 2 days ago, March 14th, on Edson Drive, another location that we get complaints about speeders, Edson Drive and 16th Avenue, northbound, the average speed 50 kilometers, the highest was 65, 50 vehicles. Southbound, average speed 47. And then the highest speed was 60, another 50 vehicles. So this gives us a bit of an idea of what's going on. I'm certainly not condoning going 10 over the speed limit, but it's reassuring to hear that it's not the 80 to 75 to 90 that some people sometimes can claim. I'm not saying that it's not happening, but it's obviously not as frequent as we might think. So that's good news. And thank you very much for CUP for doing this. This is great stats for us. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about, and it's going to be linked to what we're going to be talking about today, is prior consultations and priorities that people identify. So that will kind of help us to go into like what we want to talk tonight. I know some of you were here the last time. I did a town hall meeting here on November 24th. A few things that were brought up while we were talking about what was going on in town. One of them was the lag of time when you call the police. So people were saying like, hey, I called the dispatcher and they're telling me, they're sending a police car, but by the time they ask all the questions and the car actually shows up to my house, it takes a long time. So I did follow up with our dispatchers to ask them like, what is the actual process? So for a priority 1 call. So priority 1 call would be an urgent call. So it would be a crime in progress where there's some weapons involved. Someone's life is in danger. An outside agency like the fire department or EMS is calling an urgent request for us to go. Priority 1 call, basically when you call that in, as the call is being taken, there's already a dispatch being sent to us. Now we have to understand it's not automatic. There might still be a little bit of a delay, unfortunately. They still have to get few information. They still have to pass that along. And then that person who gets the call to dispatch still needs to contact the police officer right through the radio. So there's maybe a little bit of a delay, but we're talking about 3.5 minutes. Now, if we go to other priorities, so basically a crime in progress, something that is happening that is suspicious that requires a police car like right away, but it's not like a life or death situation. There's no weapon involved. The average time for those are a little bit longer, obviously, but we're still just under the provincial average. So basically our response time for Edson on the municipal side is, let me just find it here. So we are basically overall, so the division overall was at 12.9 minutes for dispatch time to respond to those calls. And Edson was, let me just find my number, we were 10 minutes. So we're about 2 minutes below the average. So of course that's an average. Doesn't mean that we always go to a call within 10 minutes. Some might take a little longer and whatnot, but it's not too bad. And then for a provincial, it was we were just about 1 minute higher. So basically they were also as well at around, sorry, they were around 22 minutes, and Edson is about there in about 23. Now it's a little harder for on the rural side to have more accurate times just because of the distance. Any calls in Rob, it's impossible for us to be there within 20 minutes. It's a 30 minutes drive. So it does affect the numbers like this, versus in Edson, it's a little bit more accurate because the distance from one end of the town to the other, it's what, 5 minutes really? But we're still within the average in the province. So we were just 1 minute over the average of the province. Something else that was brought up, slow communication and media release. I know during the homicide that we had in town here, there was some question as why the RCMP did not release information right away. I did address that with the RCMP. I had good conversation with the person that was in charge of major crime. So I am in the opinion that we should have had a release way quicker, just to advise that, hey, there was an incident that happened, that we are looking into it. Their point of view is that we have to be careful what we release right at the beginning, because we don't want to lose any evidence. We don't want to scare the population, things like this. So it's a bit of a balance. It's open for debate. I agree that if on that day we had sent out right away a description, oh, be on the lookout for a male aged 25 to 30 wearing a black hoodie, we would have set the whole town, in a bit of a turmoil, because how many people would fit that description? And now we're saying like, this could be a potential murderer. So we have to be very careful what we say in situations like this. But I still believe that there's a place for us to send a message and basically say, hey, yes, something happens, we're investigating, we'll keep you posted. The digital system revolving door, we did talk about that a little bit. I do not have a lot of control over this. That's on the provincial side. So I can't really comment more on this one. The homelessness situation in town, question about the shelter pods. So the shelter pods now they've been taken over by Reflection. I was actually at Reflection today talking with some of the less fortunate people from our community. And from what they're telling me, the pods are working fine. It's a lot more calm over there. There's less people coming and going, so they can enjoy them a little bit more and have good nights of sleep. So they are working. Now, do we have enough? Do we need more? Those are other questions that we could have and we can ask ourselves as a community. Should we have another 10 more pods? Will it solve the problem? I don't know, not convinced of it. Maybe transition housing and whatnot, but what we have right now, the purpose that it was created for is working. So that's good. I did then a consultation with the county through a survey. Unfortunately, I was going to do in-person presentation in the county, but with Omicron's coming out, I had to do an online survey. 30 people replied to the survey, and in the county, their priorities were patrols and officer presence. They would really like us to be more present in the community, have more contact with the people. And then it was followed by drugs, addressing drugs, theft, vandalism, and then speeding. On February 11th, I met with the Edson Town Council, talking about priorities. I was through Zoom at that time, because I was unable to attend in person due to COVID, and talking about what's going on in the community, reviewing some of the statistics, and basically what they mention is, yes, break-in enters and thefts, high on their list, community presence as well. Communicating with the community is pretty high on their list too. Like for example, news releases. Trying to do a partnership with the homelessness, to try to see what we can do to help that situation. Mental health situations, crisis. How can we focus a little bit more on that? And some education on the fraud side. Elderly people or, people that are victimized through scams, fake, dating profiles and whatnot. See how we can address that. And then I went to the Yellowhead County on March 8th. Same thing, presented the statistics, talked about what would be their priorities, and Their big ones were crime reduction, same thing, the theft, break and enters, community presence, patrolling, be present, interacting with the youth were their priorities. Any questions so far? Anything online by any chance at this point? So these are the statistics I want to present. I went even way too long. I want to say a little bit less about this because I want to open the floor to you guys to, first of all, if you have any feedback for me in regards to the police service that you received last year, anything that you would like us to improve, and then any priorities, anything that you would like us to focus on next year, anything that we should look at from a different angle, or bring some new ideas to try to address what's going on in Edson. So I'll leave it to you. If you have a question, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the microphone. The reason for this, it's because last time when we did a presentation like this, it was really hard for the people that are watching online to be able to hear the question. They had to guess from my answer. So that's the only thing I'm asking. If you have any questions. I know it's a little, I won't bite, I promise. So if you have questions, you can certainly come up. And if there's any questions online, absolutely, Steve, let me know and we'll answer questions. Or anything, we can certainly talk about policing matters, whatever you would like. Really tonight, it's your chance to talk to me, to tell me what you want. We're good? Pretty quiet. Great. Well, I'll take that, you know, police servicing were great last year. I won't go there. We did have great success. Last year we received 5,800 and something calls for service. 3,700 of those were in the town of Edson, which is the average-ish for the town of Edson. A little bit more when we were not in the COVID year. To be able to reduce our property crime, what was it like? Let me just get the numbers again, 14%. The break and enters, we did very well, very well. But so yeah, Edson municipal statistic January, to be able to reduce property crime by 14%, that's an achievement in itself. Now the reason why I'm saying this is because property crime is extremely difficult to solve. So if we compare with the person crime, when a person is being victimized, they are usually witnessing what's happening to them. So if someone gets hit, right, they see the person in front of them, or they see that they got hit the majority of the time. So now they can identify the person that committed the crime, or at least give us, you know, descriptions, the way that where they left and whatnot. And so we're way more successful at apprehending someone versus a property crime where it usually happens when no one is around at nighttime, and people sometimes find out a few days later. So now some of the evidence that could have been there are now gone due to exposure to the elements and whatnot. So very difficult. So to be able to reduce that by 14%, I think it's in my opinion, great success for the community. But again, if we can do another 14% this upcoming year, good. A lot of factors do affect that number, but hey, let's strive for it. So, no. Policing priorities. Then I'll share with you what I'm thinking for Edson. Looking at the numbers, looking at what's happening right now, and let me clarify this too from the beginning. When we say policing priorities, what we identify and what we will name or identify as a priority doesn't mean that's the only thing that we will work on. It's something that we will try to find different ways to address other than just a conventional, like receiving a complaint, attending, trying to solve the crime, like trying to be proactive, trying to find different ways to investigate and whatnot. So that's what we're talking about, priorities. So where I'm going with this is, if let's say we decide that, okay, this year priorities will be theft, doesn't mean that we won't look at break and enters anymore. But our focus will be more on thefts than the break and enters. And the reason for this, it's like, you have to look every year, what are your big trends? And the prior, so in 2020, break and enters were pretty high. And that's why we decided to focus on this. We we got good results, but now this year, what we've seen is motor vehicle thefts. This is a little bit on the rise. Why? Right now, the explanation that I can have for this would be the town is pretty active. There's a lot of activity going on. There's a lot of people that are coming, working into town, and they are bringing with them opportunities. So it's not the workers that are causing the problem, but they're bringing the goodies that some people like to steal with them. So they have the trucks, they have the tools, they have the equipment, and sometimes they cannot, unload everything from their vehicle into a motel room. So they have to leave some items in their trucks. And so some criminals know that and they take advantage of that. So when we have more workers, we are creating more opportunities. That's basically what we have. So looking at the statistics, at the tendencies and the trends, again, if I look at just the numbers, okay, no, that's the provincial one, sorry about that. Municipal one. There you go. So if I look at my municipal numbers, so just the town of Edson, for theft of motor vehicles, we saw an increase of 42%. So last year, we had a total of 48 vehicles that were stolen. In 2020, 48, last year, 68. So we see an increase. So is there something we can do there? Absolutely. Is there an education piece that we can do? Work with the oil companies, work with the community to see where we can improve, or reducing those opportunities that are, in our town? Absolutely. We have few strategies and few ideas of what we can do. Right now, I don't want to talk about some right away, just because I don't want to tip my hand, but we're working on it. So that's one of the priorities that I would like to do. Second thing is that presence in the community for sure. Last year, we put an objective for ourselves to make 1,000 visibility patrol in the county and in the town. So those 1,000 patrols had multiple objectives: prevent crime, deter crime, being in touch with the community, stopping and talking with people, kids in the parks, at the skateboard park, but also pulling over some vehicles, catching people on warrants, trying to stumble on stolen properties and things like this. Those patrols have been very successful. They are part of our success with the break and enters, but they helped us to identify sometimes who's out there driving at night. We might not be able to arrest anybody, but when we know so-and-so is a prolific offender and he likes to steal trucks, and all of a sudden we're driving around and we see him driving around and we pull him over and we chat with him, he might decide to go back home on that night. He might decide that it's probably not the night to steal a truck. So, so far in Edson, we've done probably about 800 of those. And then in the county, over 500. We've arrested a few people's warrants. We find firearms and vehicles. We've issued some violations, some tickets, and also talking with some, random campers in the county, stopping at the skate park and talking with some kids, stopping at schools, sometimes just patrolling school zone during school zone hours. So different aspect, different angles, but providing a lot of good results for us. So that's another thing that I would like to probably see coming back next year, just because of what it brings and then the bang for your bucks that we get out of this. Is there any questions? Yeah.
There is. It actually leads, you led right into it.
Okay.
With restrictions being lifted, do you anticipate being more active in youth engagement in the schools?
So yes, we will try, absolutely. So during, oh, sorry.
It was with restrictions being lifted, do you anticipate being more active with youth engagement in the schools?
Yes, so right now with COVID, we had to be careful on how much present we wanted to be in the schools. So we were limiting our involvement with basically calling about once a month or stopping by, talking with the principal to see how are things going. Now with COVID being lifted, it gives us a little bit more leeway in what we can do. We don't have a school officer, school liaison officer in Edson. But it doesn't mean that the members cannot be involved with the schools. I know I have some officers that, although they would not trade their day job right now of taking calls for service and whatnot, that really enjoy being involved with with the schools and with the youth. So we have few ideas. One of them I can share with you. We're looking at having a bike rodeo for kids on May 28th. Basically for the younger kids, bring your bicycle, we'll have a look at it, see if you have a proper helmet, and we'll have COP with us and we can register your vehicle with the data bank in case it gets stolen. We'll have a little, driving or biking path for them to go around cones and stop signs. So we're planning this exactly to rebuild those connections that unfortunately during COVID we were unable to do. So yeah, that's something that we'd like to focus on. Absolutely.
Okay, and where does Edson fall in the stats compared to other rural towns of the same size as far as crime rates go?
Good questions. I'll have to be honest, I did not look at other towns the same size. Talking to my neighbors, neighbors, I'm talking Hinton, Evansburg, we are roughly in the same ballpark. Being at the county not long ago, hearing about the presentation from Evansburg and Hinton, I know Hinton had greater success in reducing property crime than we did. Good on them. I know for us, we see a trend going up with theft of motor vehicles. They have identified as well that there's some thefts as well that are trending up in their area. So, but good questions. I did not do the comparison. I did not compare with other detachments, so I would not have a definite answer. But talking with them, hearing what's happening in other detachments, we're like on par with what's going on with the area. Yeah.
Okay. And has the number of officers during the night increased? At the last meeting, we were at 2 or 3.
So yes and no. So 3 is our minimum. So it will never go under 3. For safety reasons, officer safety, sometimes you need more than one officer to go to a call. So let's say the 2 calls for service, one could have only 1 officer, then at least we have another 2 that could go to something more serious. So we'll never go below 3. During COVID, we did have some vacancies due to COVID, due to other reasons. They're all back except for 1. So we're technically like at full capacity if I want. So you will have more than 3 officers working on the majority of the days and nights. Now, things that affect our staffing working on a certain shift, vacations, training and whatnot. So we have to take that into consideration. But usually what you see is 4 or 5. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any questions?
I was reading about Leduc having an exponential rise in catalytic converter theft, and they're educating local people. Is that an issue around here?
So no, the theft of catalytic converters is not an issue. We do have the odd one, but no, not an issue. I cannot say that all of a sudden I had a rash of like, one morning you come in and you look at the log of what happened the night before and 5-6 vehicles were targeted. No, no. There was another, yes.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
I'm worried about the amount of large vehicles that are running red lights, specifically the new traffic light.
Okay.
Seems like every time I'm there in the morning, and maybe I just have bad luck, there seems to be a lot of very large trucks running those red lights. So I'm just wondering if there's something that can be done there. And the other thing is around, I've talked to a couple of business people in the downtown core who are concerned about staff that may be working alone during the evenings, if there's something that can be done in terms of safety in the downtown core during the evening.
Okay. Okay. So in terms of the red lights, thank you for letting me know. I have noticed myself too, the odd time you're waiting, to cross 4th Ave, and then all of a sudden there's a semi that that's yellow or red, right? So I've noticed that. So we can certainly pay more attention to this. It's easy enough to have a police car and check, absolutely, and write a few tickets. Yes, absolutely. In terms of the safety for the businesses, so what's their main concern? We patrol, But then if the guys have to go to a call, then they cannot be there, whatnot. So what are their main concern? Like, do they get the visit of clients that are less desirable, that would like to be removed, or what's the main concern?
Mostly around the clientele during the evening, and that the conversations that I've had with 3 business people is that they often just have one person working evenings because it's not very busy downtown. And how unsafe that may be, just due to the fact that they're up there alone.
Yes. Okay. I don't have an answer for that, to be quite honest. Okay, and the reason for this is I know we had in November a homicide right downtown. So if you take that out of the equation, beside the odd vagrancy calls, we don't have a lot of problems with businesses during business hours. So that's why, like, we're not focusing or putting the emphasis on patrolling that area during the evening. Now, if this is something that maybe we should do a little bit more, I don't have a problem with that. That's why I asked, like, what was their main concern? If it was shoplifting or if it was just people just ordering in their stores or whatnot. So.
More around loitering.
Loitering, yeah. And that I can see, because when we get a call, it's usually what it is. So first of all, don't be afraid to call us. Absolutely. If someone is in your business and you want them to leave and they're not, it's your business. You have the right to ask them to leave. We will come and remove them for you. Absolutely. And I'll just pass it along. Yeah, maybe just patrolling a little bit more during the evening, the business area. Absolutely. Yes. Speaking of business.
So being on that end of it, and we're
Yes.
doing a late night Thursdays, right?
Yeah.
Every week. Maybe with something like that, because winter I find is not only that, we do have to walk around the bowl.
Yeah.
Our views. Maybe something like especially spring and summer when we're out later, stuff like that, maybe having a patrol car go kind of up and down Main Street in their presence
Okay.
around 8 to 8:10.
Okay.
Like, because that's when those people would be necessarily really vulnerable.
Okay.
And I mean, luckily enough, my boss does not let us work by ourselves. But I mean, there is a lot of companies that they can't afford to. But I think that would be, like, doing some laps, maybe, especially after 6 p.m., like on our third day late nights, I mean, it's only once a week, right? So during the time, the 6 p.m., most of the businesses look out for each other.
Okay.
But it's after.
So like the Thursday, Friday night, a little bit more.
Even just like maybe Thursdays, because there's really nobody
Okay.
too late on Fridays. It's usually the 6 to 8, maybe make more presence on Thursday.
Okay. Okay. Sure. I mean, I don't see why not.
I mean, that I think would help a lot with the unsavory customers that sometimes come in on those evenings.
Yeah.
They'll realize, okay, the cops are within the area they
Yep.
are here, right? So
Absolutely.
that would help a ton.
Okay. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions or comment? Okay, I'll talk about staffing a little bit. So we're doing very well. We are basically, I want to say, fully staffed except 2 positions. One is a member suspended. We're waiting for some conclusion on this. It should come soon, I hope. The other one is I just lost my sergeant, Kevin Gow. He transferred out to the Calgary area, so the sergeant position is open. So in the meantime, me and the 4 corporals, we're going to be sharing the duties and responsibility that he was looking after. But beside that, we have all the constables and corporals that we are supposed to have. So we're at full complement, which is good. We're going to have a new municipal employee starting soon. She may or may not be in the room right now. And so that will be a lot of help for us as the guys are doing a lot of work on the road, but we also have great support staff with public servants and municipal employees that are basically helping us with all the papers that we have to do and court packages and whatnot. And without them, we would just be stuck at the office due to the amount of papers that we have to do. So we're going to have someone new joining our team, and we're looking forward to that. So staffing, we're doing good. Edson is on the Highway 16 corridors, and the RCMP is kind of promised us that this is an important corridor. It's a busy corridor, so we're going to try to have your detachment maintained and staffed like all the time. And so far, I've been here like almost 2 years. Every time I lost a member, when I was calling staffing, they had someone for me like right away. So we just had a new member starting. He started about 2-3 weeks ago. Donald Mark, right from Depot, new to our detachment. And we will have a new female member starting in April 1st. Christina Chung again as well from Depot. So we have 2 leaving, but we already have the 2 replacement for them right away. So we're not going to be short. What else? Calls for service. I could talk about basically the workload for Edson. So this is for the municipal side. I have the same numbers for the provincial side. So basically workload. The way they calculate this is they look at the different type of files that we get at the detachment, and based on those files, which one are giving us the most work and which one are we getting the most, just number wise. So I'll start with the first category. So basically the 10th type of files that are generating the highest workload for the members at the Edson detachment. Would someone guess what would be the number 1? Mental Health Act. So basically mental health calls for service is the number 1 for the workload that we have to do in Edson. I had a very good question asked to me when I was at the county. I was asked by Councillor Brigitte Lemieux, and she really made me think afterwards. So our calls for, so I'll give you the number here, and I'll use the numbers that I used in the county just so to put everything back in perspective here. Municipal and some provincial. So for the county in 2021, we basically had 55 calls for service for mental health reasons, which is a slight increase, about 6% from last year, from the year before, from 2020, which was 52. But if I look back at 2017, we had 54. And she was basically asking me, like, what would be the reason for this? So, and I tried to answer it the best that I could. I know that COVID is affecting a lot of people in different ways, making it harder to cope with some situations and whatnot. And but ultimately, to be quite honest, the core reason as a police service, I don't know. I don't know because, yes, I can predict or think that COVID is putting pressure. Some people might be losing their job, and some people might be a little bit feeling lonely because we don't have the social interactions and whatnot. But when we intervene and when we apprehend someone, they don't always disclose the reason why they're feeling like this. It's more for the professional of the health system that they, so she really made me think about, like, yes, like, do I really know why? And I don't. What we see in terms of mental health calls here is a broad range. We have, of course, the people that are good enough realizing I'm not doing well, and before I do something that, might have, big consequences, please come and help me. I need to talk to a specialist. I need to go to see the hospital. So we get those. We get family members sometimes calling on other family members saying, hey, he's been acting weird lately. We need your assistance. Please, can you come and apprehend them and bring them to the hospital for us? We have some people that try to self-medicate with drugs or alcohol and are not realizing that it is affecting their mental health, and then are either acting irrationally or scaring their family members, and due to that we get a call. And then we have other calls for service in that category where it's just people that are usually already a little bit in distress due to their life situation, that are just pushed to the limit and now are causing some disturbance in the community, or sometimes we will have calls that they're in the middle of the road or yelling at vehicles and stuff like that. We have some of those as well. So we have a broad range of situations like this. For the majority, they are manageable with the skills that we have. So people are cooperating and whatnot. Some of the times they can be a little bit more complicated, and it totally depends on how the person is willing to cooperate with us and willing to receive some, or willing to accept some help. So anyway, so that was call for service number one, workload. Number two, because we had homicide last year, that was our number two in terms of workload. It's unbelievable the amount of work that a file like this generate. I cannot thank enough the major crime unit that came to assist us. At a detachment level, it would be almost impossible to take care of this. I would have my entire staff working on this 24/7. But they're a group of professionals. They do this day in, day out. They know how to task. They know how to address the different things that we need. They did such a great work on that file, and so I can't thank them enough. Number three is mischief. Number four, disturbing the peace. Number five, assaults. So in a year without a homicide, we're looking at number five before we have in workload a violent crime keeping us busy. So Edson is safe. It's a community where you can say that when this is number five, we can say that Edson is a safe community. That overall violent crime is not one of the top 10. It's not even, it's top 3 type of file that is keeping us busy. And even if I look at count, basically top 10 by count, an actual violent crime, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, wow. None. So if I go by count, are the top 5 ones: suspicious vehicle, mischief, other non-traffic complaints, assistance to general public, and other moving traffic violations. So not bad at all. Any questions from the public?
Yeah, we do have a couple more. Have you seen a rise in the suicide rates in the last few years?
So again, hard to answer for me. We've had to deal with few overdoses. Now, I'm not prepared to say that they were suicide attempt. They could have been just accidental. Sometimes users, when you use illicit drugs, you never know sometimes what's in there and the purity and whatnot. The short answer would be no. No. We dealt with a lot of mental health calls for service, but actual suicide, no. I can't think of noticing an increase.
Okay, and this is another comment from Facebook. I see a regular flow of drug activity happening in town, and it's mostly meth and very strong opioids. I'm surprised I don't hear about drug-related overdoses and drug busts or even rehab options. I would like to hear what is happening when it comes to the war on drugs in Edson.
Okay, very good question. So I'll answer the first half. So we will not put a media release or talk about overdoses by respect for the person and their family. It's usually, it's a sad situation, period. And I don't see any benefit to talk about it in the newspaper or make any type of release about it. Now, the war on drugs, I can tell you that we are back at war, if I can use the word. So what happened is the GIS section, which would be like the guys that would have the most time to spend on addressing drug complaints, are now back into action addressing that. Prior to this, they had to deal with the arsons files that we had. And again, due to the size, the complexity, and the numbers of arsons we had, it took pretty much all their time. And so their proactive time that they had to try to tackle the drug situation was extremely limited. I can tell you, and there will be a press release coming up very soon, but we did do a search warrant on a residence in Edson a couple of weeks ago. Success, we did see some methamphetamine, money consistent with an operation where there was drug being sold from that house. There will be a press release on this coming out, so, and charges as well. So we are working on this, absolutely. I did notice myself that, yes, in terms of policing, we were maybe a little weak on what we were doing on that side. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Could red light cameras be used at that Fourth Avenue or, yeah, Fourth Avenue?
That's a question for the town. I'll say yes. I'll say yes.
Safety and revenue?
So, yeah, the photo radar program is ran from the town. Could it be used? Yeah, that would be a question for the town. Any other questions? Let's see what kind of other stats I have here. Talk about this response time. Yeah, that's about it. That's about all that. Yeah. Unless there's any specific questions on anything in particular. That's about it. So I can say, back to the priorities. Next year, then what we're going to be probably looking at, again, is having a big overarching priority of crime reduction. I think for the town, we will be focusing on theft of motor vehicles, see what we can do in that aspect. For the county, same thing, thefts. The big thing in the county is oil sites. They get vandalized, wires get stolen, batteries and stuff like that. So see what we can do on that angle. We will continue our community engagement. I want to see those patrol to continue. Actually, we will continue. I decide. So I will have my guys going on patrols, that's for sure. And then same focus, trying to prevent crime, deter crime. But with that youth engagement, I've heard it a few times now that, hey, it's time to reconnect with our youth. And I agree. Now that the restrictions are lifted, I know internally we'll also have some priorities. Last year we did some training for the members, like basically try to focus on getting as much training as we can. It was difficult due to COVID, but we managed to do some online courses, restrictions being lifted. But we'll have that priority again for the members to try to get now the in-person training. So have the guys train with radar, operations, quads, sleds, things like this, so we can have them like involved in different aspects of policing throughout the community. So yeah, so yes, absolutely.
I wonder if you plan any bicycle patrols for the summer.
I don't know if I have bicycle trained officers. So believe it or not, you cannot ride a bicycle for the RCMP unless you've taken the RCMP course. So it's liability, obviously, but so we do have the bicycles. I don't think I have anybody trained in that. So that's something. So when I'm saying having an internal priority for us to get some training, that would be a training that guys will jump on. And then, yes, we could have bicycle patrols here and there during the summer. Yeah.
So with the incident of the slashing of the tires last night, is that an isolated incident or has this been happening all around for a while?
Okay, so I don't want to say that it's happening all around. So in what location did that happen?
At the top of Main Street.
Okay.
On the north end of Main Street.
Okay, how many vehicles were, sorry?
As far as I know, there were two.
Two, eh?
I don't
Okay.
know how many, if there were more or not.
Okay.
But, like right on Main Street.
Was it reported to us?
Oh, I have no idea. I just saw the tires slashed and then I heard about it when I was at the hairdresser today. So-
The reason why I'm asking is I did review the log this morning and I did not notice that. So.
Was that something that people would report then maybe?
So, and you know what? Thank you, because that's something that I should probably mention to every time I have a town hall. Please report everything suspicious. Please report any crimes to us. We need those statistics. Because right now I can tell you we don't have a rash of those because I don't know, they're not calling that in. The fact that there was two last night, and if they were called in, maybe they were, I just didn't see them. So, but if they were not, I would like that to be called in, because then that's how those 1,000 patrols I'm talking about, I have COP calling me before on Friday night, hey, Chris, where should we go? And I would tell them, go into that area, tires get slashed. And they would love to do that for us. And it's successful. Like a few times, like they're out there, they're seeing stuff and we catch them in the act. So it's very effective. But no, I haven't heard that it's a problem. But back to what I was saying, yes, anything suspicious, please call us. To put it on Facebook, it doesn't cut it. We do check from time to time what's on Facebook, but we're sometimes either too late, and we have to be very careful on how much we rely on Facebook. Sometimes it's a little twisted, right? Just to make a bigger, nicer story for Facebook. So please call everything in. No call is too small. Yeah, we need to get those calls in.
Chris, maybe you just want to talk about the online reporting as well.
Yes, that's right. Yes, the RCMP does have an online reporting. Basically, if you Google like Alberta RCMP online reporting, they'll prompt you to the website. So nothing is obviously like it's not for crime in progress. It's not for anything life or death or whatnot. It would be for property crime that you just want to report in, basically saying, hey, this is happening. You know, I can totally see that there's probably not much for the police to do here, but I want you to be aware it happened in my neighborhood. So there's that tool as well. You can do it at your own time from the comfort from your home. The file is being created, someone will review it at headquarters, and then it's being forwarded to us. And if there's any follow-up that we can do, we do it, absolutely. So yes, good point, thank you. Yes, there's that tool as well.
Yeah, and that's accessible on, sorry, on Edson's website as well, just edson.ca/RCMP, and that you'll get to the online crime reporting link, and we have the crime map on there as well.
Absolutely, perfect, yes. Yes.
May I just say that for people that don't want to report something because they think, you know, there's nothing that's going to be done. Unless you members know that there's something going on, you can't act on it at all.
Correct.
So the people, as I had mentioned during my little spiel, that the people that posted on Facebook, and so many people asked, did you report? Nah, they don't do nothing. You can't do anything if you don't know what's going on.
I can tell you, I look at every files in the morning, so something is being done. Someone is actually looking at it and then remembering it and then thinking strategically on what we can do with this.
Yeah.
Right. And like I mentioned, and you're part of COP, like we pass that information to you guys.
Yes.
So then you focus your patrols there. I pass the same information to my members. And that's how we eventually piece, you know, policing is a big puzzle and there's little pieces everywhere. The more we get, then the clearer picture we get, the more effective we are, right? So that's basically it. Yes, I cannot say it enough. Please report it.
Yeah.
True, we cannot solve every crime, and especially property crime, very difficult, but not impossible. And maybe your tire slashed on Wednesday, maybe Friday, someone else will report it and we'll catch someone and we'll be able to tie it to yours, right? So you never know. So no, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and when we're on patrol, we do check all the Facebook sites.
Yep.
Just in case sometimes they just have a picture of somebody in their yard or whatever.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Facebook has helped us in the past to solve crimes. There's people that are posting pictures that I would not, but whatever. So exactly. So, but yeah, no, it certainly worked that way too. Any other questions from the internet? No. Okay. Well, if nobody has any questions, well, thank you all for coming and listening to me. And I'm available Monday to Friday, 8 to 4 at the detachment. If you have any questions, any concerns, my door is always open. Sometimes there's some situations or files that, you know, are better discussed in private. Please feel free to call me. On that note, I will wish you a good night and thank you very much for coming.
Okay.